determination to change the nation. I'm manifesting the truth. Back in the booth to give you the messages that's been channeling right through me. No, I'm not Jesus, although my spirit is great. I'm eating my food without a plate, escaping this place through my meditations. New life begun when I reloaded the gun and realized where I was from was not too far from the sun, like somewhere close by the moon. Now I'm connected like Zoom. On walks of life that ever lived call me like out of the blue. So I just pass it to you, right through your speakers with clues. And if you choose to free your mind, then you will have all the tools. But I can't make you take it and shake it and mentally break yourself out. Cause freeing your mind without a doubt is something you have to try out. But once you see the light, your might, and all the power you've had, then you have reached the fifth dimension and you can brighten your path. But others who choose to follow the red pills, it's harder to swallow. Or you can wallow in your sorrows, feeling all empty and hollow. The only way you'll see the truth is if it's starting with you. So please stop lying to yourself, start being truthful to you. The only way you'll see the truth is if it's starting with you. So please stop lying to yourself, start being truthful to you, to you.
Police search warrant! Police search warrant! Police search warrant! Get the fucking warrant! Shut up! Shots fired! Drop the fucking gun! He's got another one! He's got another one! Drop the gun!
So I started off with those two videos for a reason. When you ask me, why am I taking it so personal, or why am I so angry? Those are the two reasons why. And just like I told the family today, they have joined a group that nobody wants to be a part of. And that's the group of the families that have lost loved ones to police violence. Okay. It's not nothing. Nobody wants to be a part of that. So yeah. And 53 years apart with Vivian and Amir, both cousins, and the exact same thing. No fucking justice. No officer was charged with the murders. Okay? So when you ask me, is it personal? Yeah, it's personal. Running from the police and no-knock search warrant, sleep in your house. They've executed 2 of my family members. So yeah, it's personal. So don't ask me questions about that when you see me angry or you see me being passionate about other families, the Phipps, the Fords, because they're added to a group nobody wants to be a part of. It's not a fun group. Okay? So now that that's out the way, how y'all doing? It's been crazy time for us here in Omaha. And, you know, I speak to Leo all the time, and that's who our guest is today. And the reason why we've been talking and all of us has been getting to this point of being tired. Hey, everybody, I see all y'all. Is because we know, just like Brother Leo knows, we have a fighting spirit in Omaha, a revolutionary spirit. It's been here. But after Vivian was killed, it got docile. Before her death, anytime something happened in the Black community, the people got together and they had action. The reason why they locked up Mondo and Poindexter, because they didn't want the revolutionary spirit to live through them. They kept them in prison. The reason why they ran Malcolm X out of here, and even when he came back again, they didn't want the revolutionary spirit to live. The reason why they targeted Omaha in the Red Summer of 1919 and did that to Brother Will Brown, because they know of the revolutionary spirit in Omaha. It's here. But you know why it's not dead? Why do people like Leo exist? Why do people like myself exist and other people in this community? Like Sister Jobina right here. You know why they exist? Because you can't kill the spirit. It's there. It's in us. You can't kill it. It only takes a few people to reignite it. My cousin Johnny called me right before this and he said, "Cuz, we got to keep going." They talk about mental space for Black men. He created that mental space for Black men. There's others that's doing that. We have to have that mental space for Black men. When you talk about people claiming titles of leader, me, Leo, all the rest of us, we don't do it for no title. This brother Leo lost a loved one at 4 o'clock this morning. And guess what? He still showed up to the town hall today. And he's still right here with us. I'm going to bring him on. Hey, brother. There is no time that we as people are not feeling the pain of our community. And it's not something we have to do, it's something that's in us. And we can't shake it and we can't stop it. It's going to eat us alive if we don't do nothing about it. And it's not like people thinking they can save the world, but like Johnny said, it takes one spark of one person or a few people to get it going, and the rest of the people are going to follow suit. And so right now where we are with this brother holding these town halls, y'all see his strength. Like I said, he just lost a first cousin, not no pretend stuff. 4 o'clock this morning, I flew back in town at 4 o'clock yesterday and fell asleep, woke up at 5 a.m. and that's the first thing I saw. And my heart went right out to this brother, man. And when I think about Leo, I think about that Black lion, you know. And this is not a time for us as a community to start pointing the fingers at who do what. If you do something, just do it. Don't sit and point the finger about who's doing what, because guess what? I've talked to the NAACP. They understand. We've had that. We've moved past that. We're talking about forward progression. I've talked to the Urban League. I've talked to Willie Barney. We have all moved past that part now. Now it's time for us to be one united fist and move forward and be a machine. And in a machine, every piece don't do the same thing. Your brakes don't turn on your lights in your car, okay? The brakes stop the car. The lights light the way when it's nighttime. So everybody in the community got a different thing that they do. Don't expect the elders or people running churches and stuff like that to put together protests, rallies. You can't hold them to that fire. There's other people to do that. We got young people who can rally. I'm not a rally person, but I will sit outside and watch and make sure that they don't get messed with when they want to rally or protest. Okay? I don't expect everybody to be like me. We all have different lived experiences. So what this brother brings to the table is strategic movement. And I told him that years ago. Leo, you are probably the most strategic person I know. So we don't sit up and expect everybody to do everything that everybody else is doing. You got some people that do different stuff, Robert Wagner, all these different people. And then you got some people who do the clerical stuff. We got the inside people who's actually working there. Okay? So I'm going to give this brother the floor real quick just so he can tell you who he is. Most of y'all already know. I appreciate the 28 tuning in that it says that's tuning in, but I know as soon as I end this live, it'll be over 300 people that have been watching. But it's all good. Y'all don't have to click the button to show that you in here and get the head count right now. I'll get the count after the live is over. So, Brother Leo, it's on you, bro.
I appreciate you. Yep, just saying hello to everybody. Good evening. It has been a long 24 hours. And one of the things I can say, and this is not about myself, I've sacrificed a lot of myself a long time ago to dedicate my life to this community. And there's so many things that people will not see on Facebook, will not hear about that I do and have done and continue to do. And so to lose a relative in this process is just furthermore fuels me to do more of the work that needs to be done. He was killed at Los Diablos, and many people don't know the last time I had a real long conversation with him was at Los Diablos at 3 o'clock in the morning while I was doing outreach. And that's not something you will see a picture of on Facebook. It was just me and him talking about life, talking about big visions and big dreams and how we was going to build a community for our families. And so I know my brother is going through it real hard because they was real close. And I was a big cousin to him, big brother to my brother. And so we just making it work. And we continue to do the work. And I'm going to let this energy fuel me to do even better, to do even more, so we can slow these things down and ultimately stop the things that's going on in our community that negatively affect us. And I know hard times grow us and hard times make us strong. But there's some things we shouldn't have to go through in order to get stronger. So I'll just leave it right there. I'm Leo, visionary. I've done a lot in this community, been around a long time. And we're going to talk about police brutality, police violence. And that's something that I've been through myself. For those who've been around long enough to know, and you know the things that I've been through. For those who showed up to the court case back in 2013 when me and my wife were assaulted in the courthouse, I appreciate you. The witnesses, those who testified, those who came forward and stood with me in that gap. And so I have an obligation to stand with others in that gap as well. Because just like a lot of young black men, we go through so much in this community that gets untalked about, unshared until there's a loss of life. And I'm not waiting that long. We'll never wait that long. So let's get on with this. Appreciate you so much.
Yeah. I want to take a brief moment to give my condolences to the Ford family and the Phipps family and just have a brief moment of silence, if that's okay with y'all. Okay. Sadly enough, while we were at the town hall meeting, as soon as I grabbed the mic to just say a few words, I was informed by Ashley Phipps, the Glover, that some of her little cousins had got pulled over by the police soon as they left the town hall meeting. They got right down there across the street from Walmart and was pulled over by the gang unit. When I arrived at the scene, they had everybody in handcuffs. And the first thing I did is question, why are they all in handcuffs? Okay. They gave me 3 stories on the scene. One was the tail light was out. The other one was they didn't use a turning signal. And then the third one was they smelled weed. which one is it? And the moment I said, which one is it? And my sister Michelle, she was there. He got agitated. Tail light out. You know, no turning signal. It's the same thing. And she like, no, it's not. It's because you got four black people riding in this car, and y'all basically are targeting the family. I received a message that they was parked at the Omaha Home for Boys and had a drone over the church. So they watched them leave, and as soon as they leave, they pulled them over. And I said, do you know this is the Phipps family who one of y'all just murdered, and now you pulling them over on some false bullshit? And as soon as we did that, and all these people start pulling up, then they got him out the handcuffs. Then they want to take one of them down and say he got a warrant, but they need to double check and make sure. So they're going to take him downtown to verify his warrant. And then they called for backup and they got the fuck out of there because we showed up. And so, again, I didn't stick around to listen, but Willie did. So that's his thing. He can do that. But I didn't stick around to listen to the excuse because for me and my experience, this is targeting. You knew we were having that event. You watch people leave, and then you follow them to see what was happening. And like Michelle said, he was big mad. The neo-Nazi came out in him. Oh, whatever. It's not because they're black. Get out of here with that, and start getting all aggressive, and he left. But it's targeting. And so what we're going to do before we get into dissecting this video, I want to give Leo a chance. I know some of y'all missed the event at the Malcolm X Center, but he gave the community an update on Cameron Ford's case. And a lot of the stuff, it was stuff that they didn't talk about on the news or didn't see. And they didn't say nothing about it. But the brother has gathered some information. And just so y'all know that Brother Crump did take the case, Ben Crump. So he had legal representation there at the Malcolm X Center for us to talk to. We all got his number, and we're pushing for the Phipps family as well. So I'm going to give Leo the floor to just update y'all on Cameron Ford, the details behind the case that some of y'all probably didn't know. And then I'm going to cue up this video so we can dissect what they said about Steve. Because from my experience, it's the same play. I feared for my life. The officers' lives was in danger, but you created the situation. Okay? Okay, buddy.
Appreciate you, Sherman. And so, yeah, just to recap about Cameron Ford, and this is a recap because we did a lot of this at the rally that we just held. And so I'm going to recap some things from a high level, and we really went in. And I know you had to take care of your daughter, Sherman, and that's a righteous thing. We went over a great detail description about what was going on with Steven Phipps. So we went through that process as well. So we're going to really break down Steven Phipps, not only the video, we're going to break down some other information that is not public, that has not been talked about, so people have the right perspective. The one thing that scares us in the black community, and I say black community because oftentimes it happens in our community. It happens in other communities too, but primarily in our community, is that the character assassination begins immediately after somebody is killed by an officer-involved shooting. Now, when other individuals are killed by officer-involved shooting, yeah, they might bring up the criminal record, but they don't take the time to be as meticulous about the character assassination as they are when it is black individuals, especially black men, who may have had interaction with law enforcement. So they attempt to build this case in the public, in the media's eyes, so the individual's public opinion gets turned. And we know that public opinion sways the ability for people to organize and get people out to really bring change. So what we got to do here is set the record straight. So let's talk about Cameron Ford. August 28th, 2024, a no-knock warrant was served on Cameron Ford. But prior to August 28th, 2024, we know by the police press conference that there were two informants that participated in drug sales with Cameron Ford. The question is, why wasn't Cameron arrested during that time and that moment? Why? Because there was a, quote, investigation, aka meaning we want crime to continue to go on in this community so that we can do something greater later. Then there was surveillance on Cameron Ford, which we also were told at the press conference about the justification for this no-knock warrant, that Cameron is a felon who served almost 10 years in prison, by the way, and volunteered at the Malcolm X Center as part of his community service when he got out of prison. But nonetheless, Cameron, who was a felon, they say had a weapon and walked into his home, and he was under surveillance. Again, here's another offense. So now we have 3 offenses that have not been adjudicated. He was not arrested. He was not stopped, which means, again, we've allowed the law to be broken so many times and it's gone unchecked. Now, this is not to say Cameron's a bad person. I'm not judging that. What I'm saying is those who are in charge of enforcing laws did not enforce the law. In many cases where no-knock warrants are approved is that investigations are underway and crime is being allowed to transpire in our community. Means guns are being sold, drugs are being sold, and nobody's doing anything about it because they want to do something greater later. So on August 23rd, we know that the police department went and got a warrant to serve a no-knock warrant on Cameron Ford. 5 days later, on August 28th, they went to serve that warrant at about approximately 7 a.m. They could not serve the warrant right on time because children were going to school. So understand that there was a plan to go in and do this, serve this no-knock warrant. Now we know, based on what the news said, that Cameron had a high threat assessment. And as I mentioned in a video that I did a couple of days ago, I think it was last week, we talked about psychological profiling. Whereas everyone is so worried about racial profiling, there's another layer of racial profiling. It's called psychological profiling, which is when a intelligence officer of some sort, even a police officer, will like to test you, pull you over, stop you, do something to you to see how you're going to react, so that the next time they interact with you, they've already prejudged how you're going to act and they can counter that action. This is something we're often not knowledgeable about, but we're going to start putting it out there and setting the record straight on these things, because they love to talk about racial profiling because they know that it's really hard to prove that other than data and numbers. But psychological profiling can be proven way faster when you see that an individual is constantly being harassed, and then the situations with that person escalate, which means somebody's watching to see how they're going to react. And a lot of that happened in Steven Phipps' case, but we'll get to that. Meanwhile, with Cameron, we know that he was psychologically profiled because the threat assessment says that he was a so-called 80, a high-risk warrant, which means you had knowledge that said he may react violently if we kick in his door while he's sleeping in the early a.m., which we know that Officer Vale, being the leader of this particular raid, led and did. So when the warrant was served after the children passed, Officer Vale was first in the door. Now, we've talked to individuals who served on SWAT team before, and we know that when you're holding a weapon, you're supposed to hold it with your finger off the trigger. If you can see my hand, this is how you're supposed to hold a weapon. And then when you see a threat, you would address the threat. And then if the threat continues, you move into a trigger position. So if Officer Vale went in holding his weapon properly, he would have never accidentally pulled any triggers when he saw Cameron Ford, which everybody heard audibly. It sounded like he, quote, accidentally, and when I say accidentally, I don't mean that he was accidentally doing it. I'm saying that he had his finger on the trigger, which means he was ready to kill. So we know by the audio and the still images that there's 2 noticeable audio gaps, and that needs to be investigated. On top of those audio gaps, we have an officer who shoots Cameron Ford, who is exiting a bedroom door. According to the chief's testimony publicly, or his chief's press conference, he said that Cameron Ford was instantly paralyzed and shot in the side. If Cameron Ford was shot in the side and instantly paralyzed, then we know Cameron Ford's hands were not down to his side. We also know that Cameron Ford was not charging an officer because the chief said that his body laid in the doorway because the bullet instantly severed his spine when he was shot. So the body laid in the doorway. But when individuals of the family showed up to the home after Cameron's body was removed, he was found, they found blood in the kitchen where his body had laid for a while. So how did his body get from the bedroom to the kitchen? Well, it was to corroborate the story of charging. charging forward. And also, here's a discrepancy in this story of Cameron charging forward during this no-knock warrant. Now, it's early in the morning, and Cameron does not have on any pants, so he's in his underwear when he's shot and paralyzed and falls within his doorway. Now, with Cameron lying in the doorway, they say they administered aid, but the body was found in the kitchen, which means he was moved. Also, we have to acknowledge the fact that the gun was never near Cameron. He was completely unarmed. And if you're charging someone, then there is no way that the officer could say that he could not see his hands, because it's biomechanically impossible to charge someone and not have your hand showing. It is biomechanically impossible to be paralyzed and charge towards someone. It is biomechanically impossible to shoot someone in the side with an arm that may obstruct it. These are all questions that are not being highlighted in the media when we talk about this situation with Cameron Ford. And most importantly, the system has allowed 3 transactions, illegal transactions, to take place for the sake of investigation. And in reality, it looks more like they wanted some action. Officer Vale has served over 122 warrants in the last year. That means he averaged about 7 warrants, no-knock warrants a month. Many people don't know that. Now, we received a different number at the police station when we confronted the police chief about this. And we were given the number of 122 no-knock search warrants in the last 6 months, which would actually average out to be about 7 a week. And that's 122 plus 41 call-outs, of which, if you don't come out, we're going to go in. And so there's a high percentage of no-knock warrants that were being served by this particular officer. And so when we think about Cameron Ford, when folks are wondering, well, if Cameron deserves it or not, nobody deserves to be killed when they're supposed to be brought to justice, or supposed justice, or see their day in court. But we also have to start questioning the narratives that are being sold to us, because in that particular situation, the narrative is a lie. And we know it's a lie with the icing on the cake of the Internal Affairs Investigation ruling that maybe Officer Vale should be fired, and the chief agrees and says he wants to send those recommendations.
Right. And so, and I want to chime in too on that part where they talk about Brother Ford charging, and like you said, if he was shot on the side, why? And like Don Klein reiterated a whole bunch of times, they gave him a lot of verbal commands. There was not one time that you gave him a verbal command. A verbal command is get on the ground, show me your hands. Okay, that was never done. You were yelling police search warrant. That's not a command, that's an announcement. Okay, you gave an announcement that you were coming in. You never said get on the ground, show me your hands. That was not done. And in that video I just showed y'all of Amir, if you paid attention, after they shot him, they dogpiled him, jumped on him, and handcuffed him, even though you just shot him in his chest. So with the body being moved to fit the narrative, we know for a fact that y'all jumped on Cameron and you handcuffed him. Okay? So again, here we are, different states, different no-knock search warrants. But now I hope that y'all see, as the people, please see the pattern of their lies and the execution, the way they kill us. If he has such a high risk, why take the risk when you already had controlled buys? And that investigation was done by the feds. Since when do the feds use local police to come after they already done started building the case? So the local police took it upon themselves to do a no-knock search warrant, but you had a federal case built with guns and violence. Guns and drugs. We're talking about ATF, right? Why would the local police come in with this? He got a high number when you could have stood at the door. He can't flush the gun down the toilet. You could have stood at the door and made your announcements that you were outside and he needed to surrender with his hands up. That way you're not putting nobody else in danger, from the officer to Cameron. Now, if you already had your controlled buys, it wouldn't have mattered if he flushed whatever drugs or fentanyl down the toilet, because you got your controlled buys. But That gun y'all claim he had that you was so scared of, Officer Frail Vale, you was so scared of, he can't flush that down the toilet. So you had him. You didn't need to create the situation and then say you were scared. And like Leo said, they even teach you that in concealed carry class. Assess your target. So you keep your hand like this. Then once you assess your target and realize if your target is a threat or not, you move to the trigger finger position. See what they did with Amir is they showed a still shot of Amir holding his gun, but what they messed up on was when they showed the still shot, this is how his hand was on his gun and it was pointed down. Even he knew that he had to assess the target before he pointed or shot. He never shot or never pointed. But it's okay for the police to do it. But as a citizen, a legal gun carrying citizen like he was, just the fact of having it in his hand, the police enjoy catching bodies. Let's not forget that. This is a fraternity. How many bodies you got? This is a fraternity. They enjoy catching bodies. It's like the army. How many you think you killed? The soldiers. They enjoy catching bodies, especially black bodies. Okay? So I just wanted to add that. And then I'll Leo, your mic started kind of making a little noise, but I think it might be back. So I'm gonna bring you back in real quick. There you go.
Yeah, no problem. I do want to add to that. And thank you, Sherman, for clarifying and reiterating. Also, it's very important for us to remember that in these events, you have the right to remain silent, which means he should not have to announce himself in his own house. Even if it's the police, you have the right to remain silent. And this is the part that they like to glance over. If he even was given a verbal command, he can silently acquiesce to those commands. Silently. He does not have to say a single word. And so they try to justify the actions by saying, well, he didn't say anything. He doesn't have to say anything. He has to come out and put his hands up, probably like he did, and just acquiesce to what he believes is the right way to surrender. So let's get this together. They tend to act like the average citizen cannot dissect their words, but what they do is they bombard us with misinformation quickly and then leave us out to figure it out. And most importantly, they create the big bad wolf syndrome about the person so that everyone runs away from actually doing any further investigation, any further looking into the story. And then people make the decision that they're guilty in the court of public opinion. Here's another thing that's very important for the average everyday person to remember is that you could be Cameron Ford. And everybody likes to say, well, I'm not selling drugs. I'm not doing anything. But there's many of cases of no-knock warrants being done on the wrong house. All it takes is a typo in the paperwork, and they'll be kicking in your door. And you better hope that the officer is not running around with his finger on the trigger and accidentally oops or you. And these are the things that people need to be conscious of. That's why this is so important. We're not just advocating for Cameron because we know Cameron or we know the family. We're advocating for Cameron because it's the right thing to do, especially when we know that Black males are more likely to encounter these types of situations, and we identify with that population.
Yeah, that's true. So right now I'm going to pull up this video because I want to dissect what they said about Mr. Phipps. And again, I've been knowing Ashley for a long time. She's married to one of my closest friends, Jermel Glover. So she's Ashley Phipps, but Ashley Glover. And the Phipps family, I've had a lot of interaction with them. And one of the most surreal moments of Steven getting killed was the same day we had the rally for Cameron, okay, at the Malcolm X. And I wasn't thinking to take a picture at the time, but when the shooting happened, I got the call immediately. I was right in the area. And actually, Toy, one of Cameron Ford's family members, sent me a message and told me that the police just shot her friend's son. Okay. So when I showed up on the scene, I had on a Vivian Strong shirt. My daughter had on an Amir Locke shirt. One of Greedy's family members showed up with his shirt on. And then a member of Steven's family showed up. I mean, a member of another family showed up with another police officer involved shooting. And at that moment, I look around and I see 4 dead black people at the hands of the police, and it angered me. It took me back to my own family, but it also took me to a point of I was just so done with talking. And that's why I got Brother Leo here, because I do want to stay on point, but I'm telling y'all right now, bro, my blood is boiling. Okay. I am not encouraging anybody to do nothing psychopathic, but that's my thoughts. I'm telling you that right now. Okay. And I'm trying to obtain that for my family, for my grandchildren. But you clearly see what that say behind me. Untamed. Okay. And it's a unified nation taking action mentally to erase and deception. So we have to unify the nation and take the action. And like Brother Leo said, don't allow them to mentally deceive us with their narratives that they put out for every shooting. It's the exact same thing. Do y'all not see the pattern? So when you see the pattern, then you know they're lying. When we had the DOJ investigate Minnesota police, you know, we found out every single no-knock search warrant they did was on black people. They were using them as a weapon to come in and say, oh, he got a gun. Pop, pop, pop. They tell us we can have firearms legally, but then when we have one, we get killed. Look at Philando. He did everything right. Told the officer, I have my firearm, and they executed that brother in front of his wife and son, baby. Okay? So we cannot be misled. And Brother Senator McKinney, I love you, brother, but you called this shit a long time ago. He said when they made that legal for anybody to have a gun, the police was going to open fire on us. Because everybody they going to think got a gun. Okay? So as God's people, and we get all of our messages and information from God, because that is where we are getting this from. We know everything is written, everything is happening the way it's supposed to, and we have to, like Leo said, this has to be fuel to the fire of what we need to do in Omaha. And if you're not seeing it, I would advise you, if you're scared, go to church, but just don't go to Assembly of the Saints, because we on that there too. Okay? So let me bring this in. Oh, man. Okay. And so we'll be still here on the side. How can we form an accountability board with you and Brother Kasim as spearheads? We'll definitely get to that. I still talk to Kasim all the time. I've encouraged Brother Kasim privately. I've encouraged him to not be as available as he used to be, because his mission by God, that God gave him, is to create the army. We had the birth of the army. That's what these young people are. They're the birth of the army. They have no fear. They're not turning the other cheek, but they have no leadership. And without leadership, they turn on themselves. So we need a general to guide the army so they know what the target is, what the mission is, know how to handle their firearms, how to be men. And so that's Brother Kasim's mission right now. And I love that brother, but I need him to focus on that, because nobody else is going to take the time to do it, but he has a passion for it. Okay. And so that's what he's doing right now, is focusing on the young men to create the army. Leo is the strategist. I am a disruptor. We all have different roles that we need to play, but we just like chameleons. God blessed us with the ability to do multiple things. So we're going to do multiple things. Okay. And like she said, build. Brother Jahi Sabaz, he spoke today to the men. All that needs to take place. Okay. So let's get into this video. Get you you gotta unmute yourself, it said Leo. Okay, there we go. All right, and we're gonna roll this from them talking about the brief summary of events because I'm not interested in nothing that was said before that. Give me a second. Spitting.
Some people near this section of the diet. On Saturday, September 28, 2024, at 5:45 p.m., Omaha Police Department uniformed patrol officers George and Dejas and Alex Atkins left in a traffic stop at the 5:59 Colorado, the area of North 31st Avenue, Yale Street. The officers were driving a marked Omaha police cruiser equipped with emergency lights and sirens, and who were both wearing Omaha Police Department uniforms. The driver of the Monte Carlo stopped at
Okay, let's talk about Noah's in Dejas first of all. Noah went to South with my son, so I've been knowing Noah. Okay, he's been around North Omaha because he's been policing in North Omaha. Okay, when they talk about Noah and Brother Leo can touch on this a little bit, Noah and Steve already had a past. So when we get to the audio, I want y'all to pay close attention to the way Noah was jokingly talking to Steve when they had this encounter. Okay. And the court records showed that Noah was a part of an investigation where they accused Steve of some stuff, and Noah was the witness. Okay. All right.
a car in a vacant lot directly west of the Omaha Police Department Northeast Precinct. The driver of the Monte Carlo, later identified as Steven Phipps Jr., 22 years of age, of Omaha, immediately got out of the Monte Carlo and stood near the open driver's door. Officers in Dejas gave 3 loud verbal commands for Mr. Phipps to stay in the car. Officer Atkinson gave an additional loud verbal command. Mr. Phipps ignored the verbal commands given by the officers and ran south from the location of the traffic stop. Both officers ran after Mr. Phipps. During the short foot pursuit, officers in Dejas gave 3 loud verbal commands for Mr. Phipps to stop, which Mr. Phipps continued to ignore. Mr. Phipps can be seen on officers in Dejas's body-worn camera holding a black semi-automatic pistol in his right hand as he jumps over a chain-link fence on the northern border of the Metro's North Omaha Transit Center property.
The body-worn camera that they won't let us see yet. See, they showed us the transit center video because it don't have the audio. Then they played the audio second, so we couldn't match up the audio and the video together. Why? Goes back to what Leo said about narrative. Okay, they initially said that Cameron was shot on the fence, so they can't show a video and with the audio matched up to show that he was not shot on the fence. Okay, let's get back to this clown show.
Officers in Dejas then fired 8 shots from a service weapon, striking Mr. Phipps. Officers in Dejas then climbed over the fence and immediately provided medical attention to Mr. Phipps.
Again, you provide medical attention to something that you did. You didn't have to do it, but the medical attention is all for show, to act like, oh, we care. Because the same way with Amir, after they shot and killed him, they told us they provided medical attention, but guess what else? When we got the real body camera footage, we got to hear them laughing. We got to hear them telling the officer, great shot, great shooting, okay? And we got to hear Amir take his last breath while they did their fake medical attention, okay?
Additional officers arrived on scene and took over medical care for Mr. Phipps. Mr. Phipps was taken to the University of Nebraska Medical Center, where he later died. Officer Atkinson did not fire his weapon during this encounter.
And why did Officer Atkins fire his weapon? Because Officer Atkins didn't see the threat. This was personal with Noah. He turned into a hunter. That's why Brother Shabazz said we need to take our boys hunting. He turned into a hunter. After he started running, after Steve started running, Noah went from jokingly talking to him to turning into a hunter. He wanted to catch a body. This is what they get a kickoff of doing, okay? Fuck out of here.
The following video came from the Metro's North Omaha Transit Center.
So I'm going to skip past this part. Or should I let it play, Leo? It's up to you. Don't? Okay.
And from officers in Deas's body-worn camera.
Okay,
That
so
happened suddenly. Various specialized units.
this is what I want to talk about right here.
Various specialized OPD policy, officers shall wear the body-worn camera in accordance with OPD training and shall not wear the body-worn camera in a manner that hinders the operation and recording capability of the camera.
Okay, so you said OPD policy is to wear a camera so it don't obstruct the actual action. But with cameras, that's just what they did. You wore a camera that obstructed the shooting. Your shield covered the shooting. How fucking convenient. But your policy say you ain't supposed to do that.
So let's, if you can hear me,
Yep.
another thing that needs to be highlighted is with Cameron situation specifically and others. If you ever watch a situation where the police have killed somebody on camera, you hear them say, "Stop resisting, get down." They're talking to a dead person, and they'll do that so that when they write their report, they can say that they actually did those things and gave those commands. So if they don't give verbal commands in the moment before it actually takes place, they'll give them afterwards.
Yep.
So they justify it in the record.
Yep. And that's why that first video I showed y'all, because they told Amir, give up the gun. Give me your gun. You got a gun. He show me your hands. Get on the ground. He was already squirming. What are we talking about?
Cameras are worn on the torso and capture the view of the line of sight from that perspective. It is important to note that the camera lens is fixed and does not capture everything seen or experienced by the officer. When activated, both audio and video turn on with 30 seconds of video data prior to activation. Audio is not recorded during that 30-second period. This feature is designed to capture incidents that happen suddenly where an officer doesn't immediately activate the camera. The following audio clip of this incident was captured by officers in Deas's body-worn camera.
Listen closely.
Hey, stay in the car, bro. Stay in the car. Hey, what are you doing? Stay in the car. What are you doing?
Those are jokingly commands. He talking about he gave him commands. Hey, what are you doing, bro? Stay in the car, bro. What are you doing? That sounds like two people that know each other.
That's right.
You've had interactions with him. Calling him bro. In the car, bro. What are you doing? Slap the fuck out of him. You hear that? Steven, stop. Steven, stop. So you knew who it was.
Correct.
You had interactions with him.
Correct.
Steven, stop. Steven, stop. What are you doing, bro? Get back in the car. Like, you know the routine. This is our game that we play. I'll pull you over and try to catch you with stuff.
Yep.
Okay? Fuck out of here. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then 8. Okay? And Brother Steven said, I'm down, I'm down. And you shot him again anyway. You murdered him. The gun was by his foot. He didn't reach for it. That last shot was him twitching from you shooting him already 7 fucking times. And then you shot him again. So you went from joking around and playing to now executing this boy on the ground, not on the fence, not with a gun in his hand, on the ground. You didn't have to do that. You didn't have to do that. And to be honest, your family shouldn't be online threatening people, calling the community pieces of shit and doing all that. They shouldn't be doing that. Talking about, oh, I got my concealed carry. They shouldn't be doing that because he chose to be a police officer. Okay? That's his job. He chose that job. And if it gets dangerous, it gets dangerous because that's what you fucking chose to do for a career. But you also, like Officer Atkins, need to assess the situation. He fell over the fence. He didn't have the gun no more. There was no reason to shoot him.
So here's some other things. Here's some other things we need to acknowledge. It's very important that we acknowledge this. Steven Phipps was pulled over for a unregistered license plate.
Come on.
He has multiple issues. He has multiple situations where he was pulled over for not displaying 2 license plates. So, in the event that the actual original infraction is that it was a unregistered license plate or an expired license plate, that is not anything to chase an individual for. Which
No.
means if the driver gets out and runs, you make a call in that the driver fled the vehicle, you tow the vehicle, and then you put out a warrant for the person who fled on foot. You do not have to chase. And in this very same press release or press conference, there's a dog whistle by the chief who speaks to the defund the police movement in reference to an officer giving chase. He said, we're not going to be like these other states that have this defund the police movement where officers can't chase. We don't chase suspects. The officer has the right to chase. Well, we know that he didn't have to chase him at all. As a matter of fact, if you are a concealed carry owner or no longer need a concealed carry in the state of Nebraska, if you're a person who has a registered gun and you chase an individual when they're no longer a threat, you will be charged with murder. If you shoot a person who is running away from you as a civilian, you will be charged with murder. And so if we take away the badge and we take away the title and we just look at this from a human standpoint, a person gets out of the car in fear and runs, and another person with a gun is chasing that person. The other person with the gun, regardless of whether you have your gun or not, you never turn around and use your gun. You run from this person, they use their gun and shoot and kill you. When the gun that you had is no longer in your hand, and you're on the ground on your butt with your hands up and your feet up, trying to block bullets with your hands. That's what really took place here. But I can't wait, Sherman, until you continue to move forward, because we got some evidence that's going to blow the people's mind when we really start getting into this Noah Zendejas and Atkinson's in this particular stop. Because there's some stuff that ain't been talked about in the media that we got to talk about tonight.
Okay. Where you want to go into the video? You good right there? Or you want to go further?
Cool.
I'm good too, because it's all bullshit, and we don't need to rebroadcast their bullshit. We got to talk about what we know.
Well, if you can on there, if you have it still up, you could bring up the charges that they claim that Steven had.
Okay. Let me see. Oh, I definitely got to show this part. Hold on 1 second. This right here. This is their point of justification. This is where the officers say he feared for his life because the gun was pointed at him. Steven is not fucking Neo in the Matrix, okay? He's not going to flip a fucking fence and shoot upside down at you. This is your fear right here. That's your fear. You circle it, and that's your fear right there. Okay? No. That's not the fear. And Jobina said it needs to be let out in the media, like they got their asses on the news and lied. We need to put out the truth that they know but won't state. So let me go forward. Fuck out of here. I don't want to hear your fucking statement. Okay, right here.
To avoid arrest, marijuana manufacturing delivery, carrying a concealed weapon, resisting arrest on 2 separate occasions, failure to disclose a concealed weapon on 2 separate occasions, unlawful transport of a firearm. Officer Noah Zendejas has been employed with the Omaha Police Department.
It don't matter how long he's been employed. Shut the fuck up. All right.
Yeah. So when you go back and look at that criminal history that they supposedly have, number one, if you're a black male, if you're anybody that's being harassed by the police, you're going to have a lot of charges. Understand? Yeah. charges stand. You're going to have a lot of charges. If you've been harassed by the police, and I am being very specific when I say that, I am not talking about an individual who's been arrested. I'm not talking about an individual who has done a crime. I'm talking about an individual who is being repeatedly stopped and harassed by the police. You will know this, and if anybody watching this, please take heed very clearly. When a person has multiple things like obstruction of justice, disorderly conduct, or resisting arrest, those are catch-all charges which are designed to build a case to justify doing something to you later. Again, all this is about is making it greater later for the police who want action. And so we're going to show how Zendejas already had interacted with Steven before.
Right. Let me add this real quick. Flight to avoid arrest, I got that on my record. Marijuana manufacture and delivery, I have that on my record. Resisting arrest on 2 separate occasions, I have that on my record. That still don't give nobody a right to kill you. The process is supposed to be arrest, go to court, get your due process. You don't decide that I can kill you and then bring up this criminal history to justify, like Leo said, you create this thing, you know, and say, oh, we killed him, but look at what he had done. So then you got all these corn huskers. Oh, he was a criminal. He was this, he was that. That still don't give you the right as a police officer to kill us. You're supposed to arrest and go to court. You're not the judge, jury, and executioner. Okay? And if that's the case, half of America, more than half of America would be dead if they had the right to execute people based off their charges. And like they said, Cameron was killed because of his past history. Then that means we should kill all of y'all because y'all got a past history with us as black people. Okay? We don't go off the past history. You have to give that person the opportunity to plead their case in court. You don't go out in the field as the police officer and, like Leo said, chase down somebody behind a plate. You chased him down over his plates. You could have been like, this person took flight. You already knew his name, so you could have put the warrant out and let it be what it was. No, you took flight after him with your gun out to chase him. You turned into a fucking hunter. Okay? Go ahead, brother.
Right on. Right on. So let's break these down. So we went and pulled Steve's criminal history. And you want to know what's surprising, Sherman? Flight to avoid arrest is not on his criminal history whatsoever. But it's on the screen. The marijuana manufacturing and delivering was in 2021. It looks like it may have been a plea deal because it's originally charged as a felony. It was originally charged as a felony, and it was dropped down to an M3 misdemeanor. And he paid restitution. Now, this means that he was not charged with a felony. He still had the right to purchase a firearm. And guess what he did? He's 22 years old. He's a young man, and he decided to legally purchase his own firearms and actually started his own gun collection. 22 years old. Now, here's the information that's not being released in public also. This 22-year-old man had 2 jobs. At the balloon release, I got an opportunity to meet his boss, who found him to be such a great employee that she came down to pay her respects to the family, and other employees did too. And she said that Steven was always on time. At 5 o'clock, he was there ready to work. And he continued to work. So in his spare time, he has the right, as a citizen of this country, to purchase his own weapons. And he did. Now, the carrying concealed weapon part, remember the law LB 77 passed last year, and many individuals did not get the memo. Actually, I've been in many rooms where we've been having this conversation. And like you said, Sherman, that Senator McKinney tried to warn the people about this bill, because with this bill, people are buying guns and not taking concealed carry classes, which means that they're having guns, and in their mind, they're thinking about whatever they can do to keep their gun on them, but not realizing that if you own a firearm and you're pulled over by the police, even if it's in plain sight, you still must say, I own a firearm and I have it with me. If you do not disclose that you had that firearm in the car, even though they can see it, Even though you put it on the dash, which is what was told to us, remember? We were told, for those who have concealed carries, put it on the dash so it's in plain sight. Even if they see it and you didn't say, I have it, you just assume they saw it, well, you should have said something, because they're going to come back and say failure to disclose, and you will have that on your record as well. And so these are some of the facts about the situation. And also the resisting arrest 2 counts, we're going to get into that. So I'll pause right there, Sherman. You just let me know when we're ready to go, and we're gonna bring the house down.
Okay. And I do want to just touch on what Miss Miller Jenkins said, that we have to be honest that this isn't the process when you're black or brown. And we are honest. If we're the Mississippi of the Midwest, we need to be looking deeper at where the police hide the bodies that we don't know about yet. You right. And First Guy, shouts out to them, said it's pure evil to create a narrative that his criminal history is the reason why his killing is justified. The police department are guilty of that, and the media is guilty of perpetuating that narrative. And it's true. And like Sheila said, so glad that God is in control. Amir's life and many others will not be in vain. And they tried it with Amir, but he too was a legal gun carrier. He had no criminal history. And they did everything to try to make it seem like, oh, he was standing by the door. He was about to shoot the cop. And when we finally got to see the video, none of that was true. The cover was still partially covering his face. He barely sat up. I believe he died without even knowing who did it, because he didn't ever get to see him. And it's the same narrative. And William said, brothers will get shot for that, Leo. Right. And resisting arrest on 2 separate occasions. The resisting arrest and the whole reason why we are the way we are with the police is based off the history of the way they've been with us. This is reactionary stuff. This is not, oh, we've never had an experience with the police, so we don't know how to act. No, we react because we see the philandos, where he tells them that he got a gun and you still shoot him. We see the Greedies. We see the other people, the Joneses and Vivians, where that officer was allowed to come back and police in the same community that he killed her in. And Robert said that we cannot allow Noah to come back to our community and police again after he took one of ours. That broke the spirit of the community in 69. We're not having that. No, we're not having that. We're not having that. Go ahead, Brother Leo.
All right, let's break this down. So for all of those who've seen this press release, they also use evidence to show Steven's registration as evidence on TV for everybody to see, and it had his physical address on it. Now, according to their documents, Steven's address is 4310 North 37th Street. If anybody was in North Omaha, then 4310 North 37th Street is literally to the west of North High School. If you know the neighborhood, then you also know where Steven was killed at was 31st and Taylor. So how far is 37th Street from 31st Street? 6 blocks. We also know that Paxton Boulevard is literally halfway down the street from North High School. So you drive to the south and you're on Paxton Boulevard. Well, Paxton Boulevard leads directly to 31st and Taylor, which is where the North Omaha Transit Center is, the bus station is, and where Steven was pulled over at. So Steven has a record, as we can see, with charges showing up on this screen, right? But those charges come from previous engagements with officers. And what we do know is that Steven's name is being called in the tape as if the officer knows him. Well, let's talk about a time when the officer did reach Steven. And according to the police report, on June 18th, 2023, officers in Day House, while in the area of North 40th and Paxton Boulevard, observed the above listed, which is the silver Monte Carlo, which had previously fled from officers. On June 16th, 2023, Zendejas requested Able 1 and other units to assist, followed the vehicle to 30th and Ames. Followed the vehicle to 30th and Ames, and if you all know where how Omaha is shaped, 30th and Ames is 1 block north of 30th and Taylor. So 31st and Taylor is right near 30th and Ames. So the vehicles followed to 30th and Ames, And Zendejas and Grabber, the other officer, approached the vehicle and attempted to place the driver, Phipps, Steven, into custody. Now, again, for what reason? This doesn't tell us what the stop was about. It says that the officers, the officers did attempt a felony traffic stop, and the officers attempted to give the driver verbal commands, and the driver did not comply. So they approached the vehicle and attempted to place the driver, Steven, into custody. Phipps continued to resist by tensing up and trying to put his body over the vehicle door. That sounds very odd. Often, or after a brief struggle, ROs were able to take Phipps into custody, attempting to ask Phipps if he had knowledge or involvement of the vehicle fled, but Phipps remained silent. Phipps was transported to DCC and booked for obstructing, which is what which one of those charges actually are adjacent to. When I say adjacent to, that means when they gave him a ticket, the resisting arrest and obstruction was put together also. And the vehicle was towed and impounded. This was on June 18th of 2023, and the officer who arrested him was Officer Zendejas. So, mind you, a year and some months before this shooting on 31st and Taylor, which is a block south of Ames and a block west of 30th, right here, he had a similar experience. In which he's pulled over by the officers who followed him from 40th and Paxton Boulevard all the way to 30th and Ames. You're talking about a 7-block almost chase. But it's not listed as a chase. It's listed as a felony traffic stop. So why would he stop if he's already gone 7 blocks? He was followed for 7 blocks. Then he was stopped. And then he was forced out of his vehicle. Supposedly there were some verbal commands. And supposedly he tried to jump out of his door, according to this particular story. And then he's booked for obstructing. Now, I've been harassed by the police before. I've been drugged out of my vehicle. I've literally been drugged out of my vehicle. I asked them why they stopped me. They couldn't justify it. And so they opened up my door, take me out, beat me up, charge me with resisting, disorderly, and obstruction. This is a common practice for an officer that wants to justify something. And again, he said fled from officers on June 16th, 2023. So remind you, this is 2 days before they're saying that they saw Steven's car flee from officers. And this is what justified this preemptive stop. This is Officer Zendejas who led this particular arrest. I'm gonna pause right there. Another piece.
And that right there, it just lets us know, and like anybody who's been in Omaha or in the streets, like I said, I have a lot of those same charges on my record. And when I did get beat down by the police, I was walking and they pulled up on me and said I looked like somebody that they got a description of that assaulted a woman, which I did not do. I was just walking down the street coming from DCATs at the time. And that officer got so aggressive in trying to grab on me, and I snatched away from him and he punched me and I punched him back. And then I got charged with felony assault on the police. Okay. And I did have marijuana on me, and they charged me with marijuana with intent to deliver. But if I had a good lawyer, it would have been nothing, because you never had a reason to stop me anyway. I wasn't doing nothing, just walking down the street. But again, they put so many charges on me. At that time, I didn't know nothing. So I ended up pleading to the felony assault on the police, and then they dropped it to a misdemeanor. So, I mean, and Brother Dorsett, he got cop stories. Well, we are recording the cop stories down at Assembly of the Saints. So if you got a cop story, come down and let us know. So that way we can put them all on tape, because that's what we're doing. We want to put anybody's cop story on tape that's in Omaha, because we don't want this narrative that we all just working together. It's not true. And so we got to make sure that we are letting people know in Nebraska, where they say, is there black people here? Yeah, we here, and we're getting overly harassed, overly policed. And that's why, even though we don't have but a 4% people here, however, it's 4.87 of black people, but we make up the most in the jails, a high percentage in the jail. So what are we talking about? Are we saying that the white people in West Omaha ain't committing crimes? No, we're not saying that. We're not saying that. We're saying that they don't have cops sitting on the corner of 24th and Spalding all the time. They don't have cops just sitting around waiting to see and catch you doing something. They don't have set up stings and those times where they put the things up for to catch you speeding and seatbelt violations. They do all that in North Omaha, and that's on purpose. Why? They do it in North Omaha because they want to make sure that they keeping their quotas filled. They're attacking us because they assume that they can catch us in these crimes and keep doing the stuff they're doing. This is all on purpose, y'all. And that's why it seemed like it's more crime in North Omaha. But let them go sit out on the corners in South and West Omaha. Let them patrol their areas just like they patrol us. You'll catch all them little white kids out there doing stuff, acting black. We're trying to be us. Come on now. And she said, I got cop stories too, Phipps. They shot my nephew. When I get back, I'll come to the church and share it. We appreciate that because we want to get everybody recorded. And Brother David Turnbow is the one recording. Anybody who want to share their cop story, all you got to do is come to the Assembly of the Saints or contact me and I'll let them know when you're coming. And we can mic you up and get you on a 4K camera to tell the story because I want to put this documentary together of how the police have been assaulting and harassing us this whole time. Johnny Waller, U.S. Supreme Court, 1967, Pearson versus Ray. That's why they enjoy qualified immunity. In early 2000, it began to cover more and more excessive force, police brutality, and homicides. We need to challenge that law. Either Omaha or Kansas City. You know I got you, Leo. That's right. And let's just be honest with this brother right here saying qualified immunity. These fuckers got qualified immunity through Don Klein. Okay. He's never going to charge them when it comes to us. So they know it's like an open season to kill us because the top prosecutor that has to present the case to the grand jury is going to present it in a biased way that the officer is not charged. We are on accord with the problem. The solution is simple, yet complex for some. Be the change, get involved, vote, good stewardship, vote, and never forget where our strength and victory comes from. God. Come on now. They're criminalizing our existence to illegally interfere, justifying murdering us. It's illegal to murder. Then there is no threat to police officers' lives, thus interfering our existence. Infuriating our existence is a threat to their lives. Why is qualified immunity a bullet point on the hiring post for OPD? That's why we should have voted Don Klein out. Folks need to stop that, and I'm not a voter. Yeah, they need to stop that. I'm not a voter. Yeah, that's true. Because a lot of people do say they not voting or they don't vote. Yeah, we should have voted Don Klein out. We are putting forth some efforts. It won't take place until after the election, but we got to get quite a bit. It was more than 40,000 after we went to the election commission. Brother Wright actually pulled the data for us, so we do got the real numbers. And the problem is too, well, not problem, but part of the thing with recalling them is once we start, we only have a month time. So we need to have the campaign of here's what we gonna do. And then when we start it, it got to be really, really aggressive. Everybody that can, we will need all boots and hands on deck to initiate this because 1 month is not a lot. And I think it's like 60-something thousand signatures, that we need. But imagine how much power that's gonna be when you show that you can get 60,000 people to vote out somebody. You know why they decided not to have those cameras on traffic lights? Because they don't care if a cop or a judge review their kids. Them cameras going to send you a ticket, right? Ms. Marshall said, I live on 162nd, and you're right. These folks out here be doing the most high-key racist. These kids breaking into cars, and believe it or not, they shooting out here. I rarely see a cop, sheriff, or state trooper. They blind to the bullshit, right? He said, I don't vote because we don't hold anybody accountable with our numbers. Yeah.
Let's get this. There's a critical point that you all need to know. And that Sherman brought up earlier, people need to come forward with their stories. We've had some people come forward with their story of actually interactions with officers in their house, to be specific, and they actually have brought evidence to the table. And let me tell you about the tactic that officers in Day House is known for doing in this community. Community members have stated that officers in Day House looking for probable cause will flash his lights on you when he is behind you, as if he is going to initiate a traffic stop. He will speed up his vehicle, and then when he gets close, he will turn off his lights, his flashing lights, and then drive around you. What this does is this creates a record of a chase that never happened. It creates the record of a interaction that really doesn't exist. And the driver of the vehicle would be confused as to why the police got behind them, flashed on their lights, pulled up real fast. You slow down to go pull over, but then they turn the lights off and drive off because they needed that record in order to come back and see you again. But then they'll flash their lights the next time and actually pull you over. And their pretext is exactly what was just read in the previous narrative from June 18th, 2023, in which we know Steven Phipps was driving his car at 40th and Paxton, and it was stated that this vehicle had previously fled from officers on June 16th, 2023. So there was a creation of a fabrication of a story to justify the stop. Now, this is officers in Day House. Now, let me tell you what happened to Steven just a few months later in October 7th of 2023 at approximately 22:06 hours, which is about 10:06 p.m. We have Officer Atkinson. For those who don't know, Zendejas and Atkinsons were the ones chasing Steven. Atkinson's was on the patrol near the intersection of guess where? 34th and North Paxton Boulevard. When the RO officer observed a silver Chevy Monte Carlo traveling westbound on Paxton Boulevard, displaying no front plate, ROs attempted to conduct a traffic stop near the intersection of 38th in Paxton Boulevard. So remember, look, he's been followed from 34th to now 38. The driver of the vehicle activated the hazard lights immediately and continued to travel until the vehicle ultimately came to a stop in front of 4310 North 37th Street. Steven was so scared, he turned on his hazard lights and drove home and let them follow him home. The driver of the vehicle identified himself as Phipps Steven. When Phipps was asked to provide paperwork in the vehicle, he reached into the glove compartment but avoided moving any contents as he searched for his registration. Now, I don't know why that's a problem. At this time, Detectives Soldo arrived on location and positioned himself on the passenger side of the vehicle. While on the passenger side of the vehicle, Detective Soldo observed a partially exposed handgun hidden in the glove compartment. Detective Soldo took possession of the handgun, and both Phipps and the passenger were removed from the vehicle. Detective Soldo observed marijuana in plain view. A search of the vehicle was conducted. The search located a loaded handgun magazine inside the center console, and it goes on to describe the gun. So for those who don't know Zendejas's MO, the other part of Zendejas's MO is that he will routinely, and we also have video evidence of this from other community members, will say, "I smell marijuana," as a probable cause to search the vehicle. Now, again, let me remind you, Steven Phipps was a gun collector and gun owner. He would purchase guns and he would keep them. He was 22 years old. And so he may have very well been a victim of a person who did not know to disclose and say, "Hey, I got a firearm on me." Because he's thinking, "I'm legal. I got my paperwork. I'm legit. I don't even need to say nothing. As long as they see it, they know what time it is." However, he's also afraid. He turned on his hazard lights and drove to his house. Now, according to the community, he called his mother, and that was verified by his mother today, that he called her scared when the police were behind him. And this is in October of 2023. So when you fast forward to 31st and Taylor, which is just a few blocks from 34th and Paxton, a few blocks from 38th and Paxton, and a few blocks from 40th and Paxton Boulevard, we have on document from the police records themselves that they were harassing Steven Phipps. Oh, by the way, the marijuana charges, all dismissed. The flight to avoid arrest that you saw earlier doesn't even exist on his criminal record. So if we really want to be honest, the community needs to come forward and continue to come forward, because the truth of the matter is there's a whole other side of this story, and we ain't even begin to uncover the onion. We don't know how many times Steven was stopped by this officer and the body cam was never turned on, because he didn't have to press the button. He didn't have to say anything. He'd just walk up on Steven, harass him, and then send him on his way. Turn on his cherries, turn him off, not conduct a real traffic stop, and then send him on his way. So when people keep asking the question, why did Steven run? Because a year before that, on 30th and Ames, just a block away, Steven had a very similar experience in which he was stopped by the police officers, assaulted, and then taken to jail. And so it makes total sense. On September 28th at 5:45 p.m., when the officers saw Steven and they do that U-turn that they do infamously, and now not only Zendejas, who arrested him once, and Atkinson's, who arrested him once, are together in a vehicle, eyeball him and do a U-turn on him, of course it makes sense for a 22-year-old man who has a legal firearm and is afraid for his life to get out, see the officers, look them in the eye and say, oh, those are the officers, and oh, those are both of the officers that did me dirty before, and run. It makes total sense. So we're going to get justice for Steve. And I have a lot more evidence, Sherman, but we're not going to go into all of that. I'm going to let you get back to the show.
It make 100% sense. And it's crazy because, like Marshall said, he was being hunted. They was hunting him. I do have a video of Noah pulling over somebody else. I just want to briefly show a little bit of it. Again, when we in our community we get hunted, this is what they do. They're hunting us because they're hoping that we do something where they can catch a body. This is just what they do. And sadly enough, these people purposely look for reasons to execute us, and then they can get away with it and then use their same old, I feared for my life. And like Gay said, he was scared. That's why he ran. We done seen it too many times where even when you do the right things, you get killed. And sometimes doing the right thing, what is the right thing with us now? You know, I don't know what is the right thing no more, because just like the brother Philando, he presented his firearm and told him, and he still was killed. They still gonna kill you regardless. I'm gonna bring this video in here real quick and just show a brief bit of this here. Give me a second.
I ain't asked you to go in my car. Didn't give you permission to go in my car? For what?
The odor of marijuana.
For what?
The odor of marijuana.
I ain't no odor of marijuana, and ain't no lit cigarette, ain't no lit, nothing was up in there. Anybody in there could come in there and come smell.
Come over here with me.
Ain't nothing in my car.
Okay.
Whatsoever.
You're gonna come over
And I
here.
didn't give you permission to take my car.
It goes in day.
And I know damn well you ain't smell no marijuana. I know damn well and smelling the odor of marijuana is not a probable cause to search nobody's car. And I did not have no marijuana lit in my car, and was nothing smelled in my car.
Is marijuana illegal in the state of Nebraska?
That's not the point. The point is y'all trying to find a way to write a person a ticket for something that they ain't doing.
What do you mean write you a ticket?
Huh?
What do you mean write you a ticket?
But look at what you're doing. You're trying to search my car because y'all pulled up my thing, and y'all seen that my car was involved in a drug thing about 4-5 years ago. And every time somebody stopped my car, they ask the same thing. Let me see a gun or let me see some marijuana. Every time.
I'm trying to explain to you, but you're just here yell, so I'm telling you.
Because y'all not keeping it real. Y'all just passing by trying to find something to fuck with somebody about.
I have kept it with you since the jump.
How?
What do you mean how? I've explained it to you why we pulled you over.
You didn't pull me over.
We don't need to stop you behind you to pull you over.
I just called. This car was parked. They was on their way out the house. Y'all parked and pulled up on side of me.
You don't need to be moving for us to pull you over. You don't need to be. We don't need to be behind you. We could be in front of you. We could be on side of you to pull you over. Okay.
But you never pulled me over. You never was behind me. You didn't even put. You never was behind me whatsoever.
Listen, I'm gonna educate you. What we're telling you is you do not. We the cops do not need to be behind you. We could park right over there and walk up to you, and you're legally detained. Okay. We don't need
Since
our
when? I ain't never heard of that.
But since cops were invented,
I don't know.
I ain't never heard of that.
Well, now you know. We don't need. We can pull up beside you, and at first we just told you to move. Okay?
That's cool if you're telling me to move, but at the same time, that's why I asked. What's the problem? Like I just told y'all, I just pulled up here.
Those cars down there, those are parked legally. That car in front of you, that's illegal, but he's not in it. We would have done the same.
Okay, but if I just pulled up, I'm in it. But I got parked. So what's the problem?
You have to park on this side. That's what I'm saying. On this side of the street, the proper side of the street. Okay, and then you're.
I'm not parked.
You are. You parked. Your car's right. You come back here with me. We're in my car.
Okay. So, and the reason why I wanted to show y'all that is because y'all needed to see like his demeanor and some of the stuff he was saying. I don't know the case law, but you know that you want to fuck with this dude. And like Leo said, it's the same I smell marijuana. This car reeks of marijuana. Same thing they pulled today when they pulled over the Phipps family. Gave me 3 different excuses: turn signal, out light, then you smell marijuana. So, I mean, it's the same with them. It's the same. Johnny is saying that he's sure that they put it on the poster. Qualified immunity relieves officers from liability. Additionally, courts rule the principle of American law that a government and its agents are under no general duty to provide public services such as police protection to any individual citizen. People should really think about what that means. And that's why they removed to protect and serve off the side of the police car. I'm checking it out, William. We're going to talk. What doesn't make sense are the laws that are protecting these predators. That's right. No different from any other gang, to be honest. They just got a piece of metal, and that's true. And the criminal do need to be in jail. And she said, if we don't come together as a community and do something, they will continue to kill our children. Shamika, you better say that. If we don't come together as a community and do something, they will continue to kill our children. And they crooked. And so there's multiple things that has to happen all at once. What Leo is doing is important. Sharing the stories of the police brutality and the instances that happen. I can't reiterate that enough. If you can come down to the church and share your story, we need that to happen too. We need the people on the law side to get together and figure out what we're going to do as far as the laws and the police and the way they're using the laws to protect them. We also need Senator McKinney to keep putting forth his legislation that's about police accountability, okay? We need anybody that can talk to these people in a room that got a good relationship with the police to go in there and still be on our team, but still putting together the stuff that we need done. We need the pastors and like Pastor Portia Cavett, people that's willing to share their space, that's willing to give the congregation the news from the community. You're not just sitting there talking about church stuff, but let's talk about what's happening in our community because you got these souls in here every Sunday. Let's talk about it. We have to, and then put some action in place. I'm going to put her comment back up again because if we don't come together as a community and do something, they will continue to kill our children. Shamika, you hit that on the nose, sister.
Thank you, Sherman. Thank you, Sherman. I appreciate the opportunity to be able to share and advocate, especially for the individuals who ain't here to advocate no more for themselves, ain't tell their side of the story. It is so important that we document and tell our side of the story and not allow the media continue to make us guilty before we even get proven innocent. Because we already know that this happens on a regular basis in our community. And one of the sad things that's going around is that we're one of the top places for community police relations, which I believe has gotten better over the years. But I also believe it has gotten more subversive. It has gotten more underground. And these officers have been getting away with some things because of this shiny idea of better community police relations. And in reality, what's really going on is some of these people is hiding behind that and doing this dirt and picking on youth and young people that don't know. What that say right there? I can't see it. You on mute, Sherman. I can't hear you.
She said that it takes a village. We have heard from our mothers and grandparents since we were little, and now is the time. And so, yeah, brother, I appreciate you coming on today, sharing that information. And like I said, as soon as I click off the live, I'm gonna check the numbers. So don't go away when I end the show. I want to share with you what it really is. And the point of this show is because we have to digress from always going to the news. That way we can give our full synopsis of things. And even though it's been an hour and 33 minutes, we need to have these conversations. Okay. This is Sunday Sermons with Sherman. This is a sermon. This is us talking. And I fully believe that we need to always bring on people or highlight other people in the community. And Brother Leo, that's why I asked you to be a part of it, because this is not about me. This is about highlighting the people in the community that's doing the work, giving them a platform to share their stories and share the information with the people, because the people got the power, not the people who think they're in a position of power. Okay. So we need to trump the media up. Yeah, the police up. Here they tried putting Steven record on press conference and half that shit was dropped and not even valid. That's true. Continue to keep our chins up and the people, and they gonna respect us. That's right. And First Guy is on tomorrow morning at 7:00. Please pay attention to the media. First Guy, 7 to 9, Monday and Wednesday, and then they got a newsletter on Friday. Sign up for that newsletter. We got Friends of First Guy on Facebook. If you need to go in there, drop your email, get that cracking, because we have to beef up our own media. Older people who still read the newspaper. So if you got a story you need to tell, send it to the Omaha Star. She's the oldest newspaper in Omaha, and there's people that still subscribe. So we need to put them stories in there too. She said, "We love you, Sherman, for your leadership." I love you too, cuz. Start writing down the names of these cops and pulling us over in the people in the community, and start to share info. Like Sherman said, yeah, we need to share it. Jobina Lloyd, that's why they do. That's what they do to make them look bad. That's right. So much love. Is there body cam on the July and October stop, Brother Leo?
Yeah, I'm not sure. That's not information that I have right now. This is just the beginning, like I said. But please, as Sherman said, file the reports, file the complaints. Make the paper trail. Make copies of your complaint. Keep a copy for yourself, and then file another complaint if you got to. Set up those dates, do those interviews. We know a brother right now that has an active complaint in on Zendejas that was put in August. So understand there's multiple complaints about him. So when the news try to play this situation where he has no incidents of use of force, that's one area, use of force. He has many incidents of other infractions and violations of the people's rights. And that's what we got to focus on. And they will never tell that part of the story because it makes them look bad. And they know how to make people look bad. So now it's our turn to even the score. So please file those complaints and go down to Assembly of the Saints. Get that video recorded, documented, and don't be afraid. That's number one. Don't be afraid, because there's people like us who are going to stand up, and there's people like you who are going to stand up, and we'll stand with you.
Appreciate you, Brother Leo. We're going to get out of here. Make sure y'all following both pages for the updates. Stay up on everything. This can't be a one-off. We got to continue this, because the next day it could be any one of us. We really, really have to stay visual. And today, I think if we wouldn't have pulled up the way we did and the way they had the Phipps family cornered with 4 undercover cars and 1 marked car, but it was a black with black writing. So, of course, you still barely could tell it was the police. Had we not pulled up and caught one of the demons there, if you go to my page, I shared the live, you can tell which ones are the demons, because he started getting smart and irritated just because we called him on his bullshit, okay? So I love you. We love you too, April. I told you from the beginning, when you called me and when we connected, that it was all the way to the end. I'll be right there with you all the way to the end. Same with the Phipps family, Leo and I, and the rest of the people that's working together, the people that's working silently, the calls, everything. We are going to continue working on making sure that y'all voices is heard, the families get justice, and it's not going to stop. And like I said, for me, it's very, very personal. And whether it's my family or not that is happening to, I have to continue because it's the God in us that makes us do what we do. It's the God in us that gives us the responsibility of North Omaha and our people. So we love y'all. And she said, yeah, listen to Leo. Please, people, file your complaints. Stop being scared. Keep filing them. Dort said, we North Omaha, Nebraska, I bet $1,000 at the end of the day, there's nothing y'all or we can do anything to change it. Cops are or can be killers, and the judges got their backs in the death in the streets. And that, I bet 5,000, but I don't want to have that much money. But I'm gonna tell you what, if you speak any negativity over it, then you already lost. We have to keep the faith that what's gonna happen, and we will things that happen around here. Your name is Will. We will things, Will. Okay. So right when people think it can't happen, it's gonna happen. Right when people think it's impossible, we make it possible because we the guys, we control our life, we write our own narrative, and we will things to happen. I love you, cuz Arlette Brooks. Thank you for representing our community for sure. And we're gonna get out of here. Leo, you got any final word? Okay. We out of here. Peace and hair grease. Love y'all. Appreciate y'all for tuning in.